meeting of South Kesteven District Council. If I can just advise of some few housekeeping notes before we start. Firstly, to say that this meeting is being recorded. If I can ask members please to turn on their cameras and make sure any telephones are put onto silent mode and you remove any possible distractions. If I could also ask members to refrain from writing comments in the chat function, this is for the use of cabinet members to indicate that they would like to speak. When invited to speak, you should turn on your microphone and please do your best to remember to mute your microphone. But if not, one of our team will mute you, so not to worry on that one. And then, of course, if you do intend to leave the meeting early, please just indicate that on the chat function. So welcome to our second Cabinet meeting of 2021. I hope that you're all keeping well and safe. I'd like to thank you all for joining the meeting today. Although the country remains in lockdown as we head towards spring, there continues to be good progress made in our battle against the pandemic. Our country continues to lead the charge with our vaccination programme, and this week, of course, we've learned that another 2 new vaccines have found to be effective against the virus. This, I'm sure you'll agree, is something worth celebrating. Our district and county continues to play a key role in the nation's commitment to vaccinating its population, and this is something that I, and I'm sure most of us, will also be particularly proud of. And last week, we received the welcome news that all residents in Lincolnshire of care homes have been offered their first dose of vaccinations. So that really is fantastic news, as the vaccines are vital in protecting our most vulnerable. And I would like to thank our wonderful key workers for tirelessly working to keep our communities safe. So although amazing progress is being made, our communities have been hit particularly hard, and the continued lockdown remains immensely challenging. This is why at South Kesteven District Council our focus must remain on providing emotional and financial support throughout this period, whilst being bold in our plans for recovery. And today, as part of these plans, we'll be focusing on the budget proposals for the new financial year to ensure that the council can deliver the best services for our communities whilst providing excellent value for money. We'll also hear more on the Cabinet's forward plan, the cornerstone of our corporate plan, which aims to make South Kesteven the best place to live, work and visit. And this plan also includes some key milestones relating to housing, planning and finance. Another important agenda item is the report to consider the recommendations made by the Culture and Visitor Economy Overview and Scrutiny Committee regarding the unveiling event of the statue of Baroness Thatcher. And this report provides an overview of the benefits that it will bring to our district, delivering a much needed boost for the local economy through increased tourism and footfall to our town centres. The report also contains additional information about the fundraising campaign, which will be launched to cover the cost of the event, alongside a breakdown of the projected costs. I'm hopeful that this report will provide further clarity and will enable us to move forward with this decision. This is vitally important for the sake of our businesses and communities who desperately need us to be pursuing every opportunity for growth and inward investment with vigour. We've got lots to cover today. I have also accepted an urgent item on the agenda which we'll deal with later in the meeting, which is to do with the future high street funding, and we'll come on to that a bit later in the meeting. So Lucy, I presume you're clerking today's meeting?
I am indeed, leader, yes.
Excellent, wonderful. So let's run through the register of attendance then, please.
Certainly, leader. Councillor Kellen Cook.
Present.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Annie Mason.
Present.
Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley.
Present.
Councillor Robert Reid.
Present.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
Present.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
Present.
That's everyone's present, leader.
Thank you very much. And for those members that aren't on the Cabinet, we will note your attendance as well in the minutes. So therefore, moving on to the minutes of the previous meeting, we've got the meeting held on the 12th of January. Do I have any comments or alterations on the accuracy of the minutes from the Cabinet members, or do I have a proposer to adopt them?
Happy to propose, leader.
Happy to second here.
So that's proposed by Councillor Stokes, seconded by Councillor Dobson. Therefore, Lucy, if we move to the vote, please.
Certainly, leader. Councillor Kellen Cook.
4.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
4.
That's carried, leader.
Wonderful, thank you. So agenda item number 3, which is disclosure of interests. Obviously, we do have your disclosures as listed on the Council's website. If anything does come up during this meeting, then please don't hesitate to disclose. So moving on to the first item for recommendation to Council, which is the budget proposals for 2021-22, and Councillor Stokes will be presenting to us today. So I'll hand over to Adam, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I am pleased to present to Cabinet the final budget proposals and the recommended council tax bandee charge for the financial year 21-22. The report is a culmination of 5 months' hard work, which started last September, running parallel with setting an amended budget and providing Cabinet members monthly financial information to track and monitor the financial situation the Council has been facing due to COVID. Of course, such a workload cannot be done in isolation. I would like to take the opportunity to thank you, my Cabinet colleagues, the Finance and OSC, FEDCO, and Section 151 Officer Finance team and all the budget managers across the Council in supporting the formulation of the budget proposals in front of us. The budget proposals have undergone a robust scrutiny by members of the Budget Joint OSC on the 13th of Jan, as well as holding discussions with opposition members and leaders, and the whole of the South Kesteven District residents and businesses during the last 2 weeks of January. The feedback from the consultation was that just over 34% supported the council tax increase to the council's proportion of council tax bill of £5 per bandee property. Members will note that over 66% reside in band A to C properties, so their increase will be less, between 6p to 8p increase per week. Members are reminded that the government's announced increase in core spending power of local authorities of 4.5% is largely predicated on each council taking the opportunity to maximise the council tax increase available. Members at the Budget Joint OSC raised concerns with respect to the indicative fees and charges increase being considered in respect of Stamford's pay and display car parking. I committed to reviewing this with Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley, and I'm pleased to confirm that the increase will now be 10p less per tariff than the proposed tariffs presented to the Joint OSC. Therefore, 1 hour parking in Stamford from April will be £1.20. This reduction is projected income will be met from applying additional government grant that was announced in the provisional settlement announcement. Members also asked that the allocation per ward member be reviewed in light of the current allocation of £1,000 per ward member. Members will recall this was increased by the Leader for 1 year only in response to the pandemic, and I can confirm at this meeting that it will revert back to the £500 in this proposed budget. The budget is focused on 3 main strands: supporting the delivery of the corporate plan actions, responding to the COVID recovery plan, and maintaining quality service delivery. Members will agree that all these objectives are being met, but there is also an acceptance that service delivery models need to adapt and that service transformation needs to continue. The details of these proposals are set out in detail at Table 5, Key Budgetary Proposals. The SK companies continue to feature as an important part of the service delivery models, and my report provides total transparency of the proposed levels of funding for each company. Their activities will continue to be reviewed by the Companies Committee during the course of the coming year. Of course, with funding proposals for Leisure SK, the funding proposals for Leisure SK were formulated before the current lockdown was announced. Therefore, the centres remain closed, and although we look forward to a phased reopening in the spring, it is likely that the funding model of £500,000 may not be sufficient for the 21-22 financial year, and therefore I'm suggesting that this figure will need reviewing once an updated business plan has been reviewed and agreed by the board. There are financial challenges and there is still much uncertainty for the months ahead, but I'm pleased to confirm the Budget Stabilisation Reserve remains in place and can be bolstered by a further £1 million as part of a one-off government COVID-related funding in order to provide resilient financial cushion to balance the books without any service cuts. In terms of reserves, I would draw members to the robustness of the budget estimates and the adequacy of reserves at paragraph 7.5. This should provide members with sufficient reassurance that the financial position is strong. Attention is drawn to the housing revenue account, which is also facing challenges, facing a reducing income budget due to a lower than expected rent increases, and facing rising expenditure means that HRA is facing a financial challenge. Therefore, I am only able to present a 12-month rather than the usual 36-month budget in order to avoid a negative working balance being reached. I, alongside my colleague, Councillor Robert Reid, will be working throughout 2021 to bring expenditure back down to affordable levels and put the HRA back to a financially sustainable position. At the time of the report, the collection projected year-end position hadn't been calculated. I can now update members with the following information. The projected year-end deficit is anticipated to be 1.1 million. The majority of this relates to changes in the business rate base. This has already been forecast in the proposed business rate funding levels for 21-22, and the base will be monitored during the year. Finally, in respect to the capital programmes, I'm pleased to confirm that for the next 12 months, no external borrowing is required to fund both programmes, but the ambition of the HRA is drawing down reserves to very low levels, which will require very careful reviewing. Similarly, for the general fund, in the absence of capital receipts being received in the next financial year, then the reserves too will also be reducing. Of course, the capital programme at this time does not include any leisure development ambitions, as they are being considered and proposals will be brought forward at the appropriate time. Whilst Appendix B sets out the proposed capital slippage from the current financial year, these figures will be kept under review and the actual approved slippage will be considered by the Governance and Audit Committee in May or June of this year as part of the financial outturn position for 2021. Therefore, I am recommending to Cabinet, and Cabinet is asked to recommend these to Council recommendations 1 to 16 of the report with the following amendments. Recommendation 2 reads, to read 13.859 million as per table 4 of the report. Recommendation 12, HRA Capital Investment Programme, to include an additional 440,000 of the Section 106 monies in order to fund temporary housing provision in Stamford area. I'm sure that Councillor Reid will update us on that. Recommendation 16, to amend page 45, the Stamford car parking proposed charges Appendix D to the following. Up to 30 minutes, 90 pence, up to 1 hour, £1.20, up to 2 hours, £1.90, up to 3 hours, £2.50, up to 4 hours, £4.10, and over 4 hours, £5.30. So in proposing these recommendations to Cabinet to the Council, that's all I've got. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stokes, for that. And I think if I can just say a few words, and particularly, budgets are never easy to set, and particularly with COVID, which has certainly exacerbated some of the issues that we are now experiencing. Obviously, it was very interesting to hear the feedback provided on the consultation, and also the fact that the joint budget scrutiny has also met since our January meeting and also fed back their views on the proposals. And I think, for me, the budget has been formulated to drive forward our corporate plan ambitions, ensuring, that we do have quality services continuing to be delivered, as well as funding the COVID recovery plans which are in place. And I think, over the next year, the support that we will have to give to residents and businesses and those most vulnerable in our society will certainly need to be maintained and possibly increased in certain areas as we do come out of COVID and the restrictions that will bring. So I think given the current financial climate, I think we've also got to be quite clear that throughout the year we will potentially have to amend the budget from where it is, as we would do is in general best practice. I am personally pleased that the budget sees a continuation of the ward member grant scheme, as I know this is popular, as well as the community fund scheme and the food bank, which I know obviously Councillor Mason manages on our behalf. And I think if we just mention on the standard car parking that Councillor Stokes has proposed an amendment there, it does show that this isn't just the Cabinet's budget, it is the Council's budget. And obviously as a Cabinet, we've listened to the views, particularly of Stamford Ward members, about that reduction that they sought. And obviously we've listened to that and found a way to find a solution. And in fact, there are no detrimental funding reductions across any of the Council's priority areas for the year ahead. That's not to say that the year ahead won't be challenging, and particularly the budget process for next year will also be incredibly challenging with the pressures that we will experience. And the reserves and balances for the Council that are being only used to fund specific projects and investment programmes remain at a healthy and robust level, providing that financial cushion to us as an authority. So thank you, Councillor Stokes, and the finance team for leading us through this tough budget. On my own personal portfolio area, I am pleased that we are continuing to drive forwards and manage our property estate, particularly the Elm Street ambulance station in Stamford, which I know I've been going on about now for quite a while, and that restoration that was completed yesterday, and obviously we're looking forward to welcoming new tenants into that building soon. The St Martin's Park regeneration continues to progress, We're in detailed discussions with the buyers of the certain aspects of that site, providing regeneration, jobs and growth to the town of Stamford and the wider district. And also, finally, if I can just say, this budget will also continue to support our staff as they deal with the ongoing crisis in supporting both our residents and businesses. So we must also thank all of our own team, SK, as well at the same time. I do have a few Cabinet members that wish to speak, so I'll move firstly to Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader. I'd like to firstly speak on the aforementioned amendment for the use of Section 106 monies to fund temporary accommodation in Stamford. Members and indeed everybody can make reference to this on page 39 at recommendation 12. Recommendation 2.12. The proposal is to amend the Housing Capital Programme Appendix B to further include 440,000 from the retained Section 106 receipts. The proposal is to allow the Housing Service to fund the purchase, renovation or conversion associated with securing 2 or 3 dwellings depending on the final costs, and to be used as a specialist temporary accommodation in accordance with conditions and requirements specified within the 106 agreement applying to the funds. The focus for acquiring these additional units will initially be for one-bed flats or houses or larger 3-bedroomed houses, so that if necessary, conversion into a multi-rooms use to let can be achieved. This requirement is proposed due to the lack of temporary accommodation, as we all know, Leader, that is the situation in the south of the district, which results in the use of costly bed and breakfast accommodation, and I've reported to COVID times of quite extensive expenditure to fulfil the council statutory homeless responsibilities. That is the amendment that I've asked to be included, and of course has been made reference to by my colleague Adam Stokes. I'd like to talk on both my housing and planning portfolios, but I would take my time and put my name in the chat box to speak later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go on to Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. And first of all, hats off to Councillor Adam Stokes and his team for putting this together. It has not been an easy task. There's been a lot of demands and there's been a lot of hard challenges that we've had to talk about throughout the year. I think what we've ended up at is a very good piece of work. As far as the commercial and operations budget goes, I'm delighted to say that obviously we're keeping our big clean teams, which I know that the majority of our residents see great value in. It's one of the few things other than the curbside collection that every single resident in the district sees, and that I know that they're hugely valued. Equally, although we haven't been able to make the investments that we wanted to in CCTV, we have managed to keep that service going. It's a non-statutory service, so it's something that we don't have to do, but it's something that we know that our residents value. And of course, we have that maintained and a small amount to upgrade equipment during the year. Obviously, tribute must be paid at this particular time to the work of our street scene staff. In particular the loaders who have worked tirelessly and maintained a curbside collection every single week throughout this pandemic, and they are recognised in the budget by obviously the pay rise that we agreed earlier in the year, and that has now been passed through, so I'm delighted that we've been able to keep that going. Obviously there are challenges ahead. We do have some commercial operations which do feed back into the council, and I'm delighted to say that that they continue to operate and do well for us, and I think they've provided us with the resilience and flexibility as a council to to keep things going and to be able to look ahead during the year. Obviously there's the car parks, and I'm delighted that I've been able to work with Councillor Adam Stokes to look at the issues surrounding the car parking fees. It's only right that we have a car parking fee strategy which makes sure that we can maintain and look after our car parks moving forward, which up until last year had not been done for some time. So this is really making the statement that we have these assets and we need to look after them, and they need to self-fund themselves moving forward. So all in all, I think it's an excellent budget, and I'm very happy to support it. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. We go to Councillor Mason next.
Thank you, Leader. Like you've already mentioned, Councillor Cook, it's really critical to continue to support our food banks. So I'm really pleased to see this continued in the budget and the ward members grant and the community fund. It means so much to our residents, so I'm really, really pleased that this has been able to continue. And thank you, Councillor Stokes, to you and your team for the incredible amount of work that you've put into this budget. I'm fully in support of it. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. And we'll go on to Councillor Reid, please.
Thank you very much again. I'll put my planning hat on first. Most of the budget is around staff resources balanced with fee income. And again, my thanks to Adam and Stokes, and in particular the finance managers with him in evaluating this year's budget, including the fees and charges. The budget sees a strength in enforcement of resources and indeed to become proactive within the next year's operation. Within the housing development management, the structure sees that we shall have 2 principal planners, and that in turn they will both have a senior planner each, which will of course see that we can do a dual approach in looking after our applications that come in. Quite importantly, and separately, major projects and the management there will remain as provided over several years. Section 106, there has been a strengthening in our facilities to be able now to produce quarterly reports, which the next one will be due to be published in April, being the outturn of the end of March. The local plan review by a strengthened officer and member liaison, especially identifying progress of the travellers provision that will be needed for another local plan to be passed by inspection. And of course, not to forget the ongoing planning reform that we are undertaking at a sensible rate of delivery that we are is understood by both officers and members, and a common agreement by both. I'd like to now move on to housing, if I may. And first of all, of course, I have known our finance officer mention it before, but there is a silver lining for one more year in the new homes bonus, so that is good to help us with funding. The budget includes features such as the upgrade of the housing of the Northgate system and other IT systems to help us not only expedite the housing compliance issues, but also the whole delivery of our housing service and delivery. We are pleased that there has been a budget provision made for an improved grounds maintenance and garden scheme, and this in turn has also taken an account and evaluation of garden waste from the scheme, and indeed the use of the green bin collection service, which will be advantageous within the costings. I join, I'm sure, along with many of our residents in the sadness that our community rooms remain closed and that their refurbishment programme is currently on hold. But I look forward to brighter times in that the rollout of this programme will be restarted, and indeed our community rooms used, in particular the one at Barkston that duals as a post office facility as well, and I know how much needed this is. Our void process is also under enhanced delivery and indeed financial impact from the length of time our voids loses loss of revenue. I join with wholeheartedly my colleague Councillor Adam Stokes with the challenge that with a 1.5 rent increase for this coming year, we have a challenge with balancing repairs, improvements and indeed new housing. Albeit that a stock condition report which members voted and agreed for me to expediently order for the years of 21-22 that will evaluate a stock position and also help us prioritise where we move with repairs, improvements and housing delivery. A balance of these findings will be something that I'll be relying on and discussing most earnestly and taking the views of my other cabinet members along with you, Leader, in balancing these pressures and requirements and the new build programme. That's not to send a message that the new build programme will not be made, but it is to say that in all seriousness and securely I shall be relying on the information and indeed the competence and much valued opinions of my cabinet members in the decisions we shall be making in the forthcoming year. Again, I'd just like to say thank you to the finance teams. I'm going to say it in readiness for the next 12 months because I know I'm going to need their support. And I'd like to say that most, well, not most, but every one of them that I've worked with in dialogue have been most helpful, clear and concise in the information that they've been able to help me evaluate. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Councillor Reid, and we'll move on to Councillor Dobson, who I believe will also second the recommendation made by Councillor Stokes. You there, Barry? You're mute.
I'm sorry, I put myself on mute, yes. Yeah, no, thank you, Leader. Just to thank Councillor Stokes and his team for this excellent budget report, and I would like to second it, please, Leader.
Wonderful, super, thank you for that, Councillor Dobson. Well, it has been proposed and it has been seconded. Obviously, this will be coming back to a further meeting of the full council to have our budget meeting in due course. So, Lucy, can we move to the vote, please?
Certainly, Leader.
With the amendments put by Councillor Stokes, just for
yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Councillor Cook.
4.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
4.
Councillor Annie Mason.
4.
Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley.
4.
Councillor Robert Reid.
4.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
4.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
4.
That's carried, Leader.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Therefore, we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is items for the Cabinet decision, which are non-key. So agenda item number 5 of this agenda is the Cabinet decision calling for the public realm improvements on St Peter's Hill in Grantham. Well, obviously, I think most members will remember that we took a decision on the 1st of December, and this was subsequently called in and considered by the Culture and Visitor Economy Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 5th of January 2021, of which the majority of us, I was pleased as cabinet members, were present at. The Overview and Scrutiny Committee agreed to refer back to Cabinet the decision to underwrite up to £100,000 and also requested that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is updated on the organisation of the event and fundraising. So the report we have here today provides a breakdown of the up to £100,000 budget and provides an update on the fundraising plans. So in terms of the budget, no details of the proposed unveiling event have yet been finalised. So the plan and budget requirement remain flexible up to £100,000, but as I think we all expect it to be significantly less than £100,000. A breakdown of the current provisional budget and potential optional extras are set out in Appendix D. And I think just for absolute clarity, and I have said this a few times now, of course the unveiling event won't happen until we are out of the midst of COVID. So it probably will not take place until significantly later this year, if it does happen indeed this year. In terms of fundraising, the details around the fundraising appeal are yet to be finalised and remain subject to agreement with the external event management organisation. Upon formally commissioning and contractual arrangements, this has been on hold following the call-in, so we haven't been able to do anything further on that as an authority. However, the fundraising plans will be developed further by the external event management organisation, but the current working assumptions for the fundraising appeal are set out in Appendix C. I also did have a very productive conversation with the National Conservative Party chairman in relation to the unveiling event and the donors that are also interested in making contributions to that. And I think following that conversation, I was very encouraged by the amounts of money that we were talking about, not only providing the funding for the unveiling event, but also for providing a legacy payment to the museum, and also in terms of the ongoing maintenance of the statue. So the recommendations are set out in the covering report, and I would suggest a further recommendation is added to reaffirm the recommendation made on the 1st of December on the following lines: to approve a budget allocation from the local priorities reserve and authorise expenditure of up to £100,000 to underwrite the statue unveiling event and any consequential works. And any fundraising from the public, businesses and others will go towards this budget allocation. I mean, the event rationale is, the unveiling of this statue provides a unique opportunity to celebrate our heritage and harness national and international interest to promote South Kesteven as a visitor destination and attract inward investment, all of which support plans to boost the local economy and regenerate the local area. Before I hand over to Cabinet members, firstly, I would also like to put on to tribute my thanks to the Chairman, Councillor Judy Stevens, who I believe did an excellent job of managing the call-in decision and also managing the meeting as well. So if I can firstly go to Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised at the reasons for calling in, and I've got this thing about statues and about how they start these conversations for people. And I think the point to make here is that this statue is going to be put up no matter what, because the planning consideration's been through. The plinth is there. This is about how we celebrate or promote that for the benefit of the district and the town. And I think having a great unveiling event is a great thing to have, because it brings people to Grantham, it brings people to South Kesteven. It allows us the opportunity to show some of those people what we have to offer. The reasons for not having, underwriting the event, and perhaps not having an event at all to unveil it, don't seem to stack up for me. The principle of Baroness Thatcher is that she was the first female Prime Minister, and that is what I believe that statue celebrates. It doesn't state, to me, she could be Labour, Lib Dem, whatever. She was the first female Prime Minister. If you go against that and you decide that you don't want to support celebrating that, well, it'd be a bit like us. I was trying to think of an analogy, if you like, and it'd be a bit like saying, well, we don't want a statue of Sir Isaac Newton in St Peter's Hill because we don't like apples. You can't say that. At the end of the day, she was the first female Prime Minister, and this is a statue to celebrate the achievements of women ever since the suffragettes sought out the vote, for example. So I'm fully in support of us celebrating this. I do hope that it goes through and goes ahead, and that perhaps we won't see some of the prejudices against her that we've witnessed in the past. And I really do hope that people will get behind this, because it will be a superb event for Grantham and for the district. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Reid next, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm sure as Cabinet we're noting the call-in, and I would like to remind all members listening of what you said, that the rollout of this will not be until COVID times are over. Like my fellow councillor Peter Moseley, I'd like to endorse the quest and the advantages of what this will bring to the culture and visitor economy and to strengthen our heritage. And I will be continuing to support this need and this initiative, and like to remind people that we are asking this to be a temporary provision, and it will be netted by the contributions of fundraising, which by the time we get out of COVID times, this is programmed and our fundraising is complete. I would rather like to hope that we won't only have enough money for the provision of the statue and indeed the security of it, but also some funds left over towards the maintenance and heritage and support through our museum ways of looking after this statue. Thank you.
Super, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Mason, please.
Thank you, Leader. This is about celebrating inspirational women of South Kesteven. Has aims of promoting our district to help put our businesses and shops on the map. We've got an incredible heritage, and this event will highlight the amazing history that we have. So why would we not want to celebrate this? I am fully in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Dobson, please.
Right, I've unmuted. Thank you, Leader. Yes, I wasn't in country at the time that Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. I was in Germany. Being in Germany, one of her most remarkable feats, I think, was dealing with the Russian President Gorbachev, President Ronald Reagan of the States, and Helmut Kohl of Germany, of West Germany at that time. She saw the tearing down of the wall. She saw the reunification of the Germanys. And I think it was such an exciting event at the time that I lived firsthand. And whatever else, that I think she had a tremendous time in office. But I think this is one of her main achievements and something that I always remember her by. Thank you, Leader.
Not at all, thank you. And I know it's already been mentioned about her being the first female Prime Minister, and I know herself, and I think she's spoken about this, is she was the first scientist Prime Minister, is what she likes to also accolade. And I think she was a daughter of the town of Grantham. Now I do know we have got some non-cabinet members wishing to speak. The only thing I'd like to say before I do introduce them is that this isn't another call-in meeting. I know there was ample opportunity, and all members had a good opportunity to air their views about the statue at that meeting. We are talking about the report and obviously the recommendations on the report, which I'm very happy to propose. So if I could ask to keep your comments brief. So we'll go to Councillor Dilks first, please.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. The report raises many questions, and I'd just like to them, if I may. I'll try to be quick. Could you clarify whether the professional fundraisers and the external event management firm to be hired for the event are one external organisation or more than one? Who are they, and what's the cost of their services? Can you confirm that an outside organisation has already been engaged by the council and that they've suggested a core budget of £74,454 for the event, plus £35,040 for optional extras such as additional refreshments, etc., and keepsakes for VIP guests? What's the internal costs of council staff on this project? Next, I note that the external organisation to be engaged will manage communications. How many communications officers does this council already employ, at what cost, and isn't managing communications what we pay them for? I note that the ongoing maintenance of the statue and plinth will be met by existing budgets, and hear what you say about hopefully having some money left over. But what happened to earlier assurances that no money would be used regarding the statue? And finally, I note that in response to the call-in by myself and others, paragraph 2 of today's report to Cabinet says that officers have prepared a briefing report, which is at Appendix C. Why does that report not follow the accepted format for reports to Cabinet or Council? What's the date of the report? Who's the author? Who reviewed it? Who approved it? Who signed it off and when? Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you, Councillor Dilks, for your observations. I'll invite Councillor Wheeler to speak next.
Thank you, Leader, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Just to clarify, as Councillor Moseley was querying, I'm not questioning the reason for the statue's existence, nor its place at the heart of Grantham, although personally I think the statue would be safer indoors rather than outside. But the reason for the call-in initially was the idea that public money should be used to pay for the cost of the unveiling event, and to the tune of £100,000. And I'm sorry, but that is still my concern. Regardless of how you've broken the cost down in the budget, it is still going to cost £100,000, and you are still expecting the public to underwrite this vast sum of money. And I think that's wrong. I'm sure that our residents can come up with hundreds of better ways of spending £100,000. They're struggling to put food on the table for their children. They're struggling to pay bills. They're struggling to afford their homes. They're losing their jobs. The pandemic has cost many their lives, their livelihood and their businesses. I just think this is not a time for wasteful extravagance. Margaret Thatcher was nothing if not frugal. She believed in protecting the public purse. Her service to the country was primarily one of cost cutting. She was all too aware that there was no magic money tree, and that money needed to be earned, and that governments and councils could not simply spend other people's money on frivolities such as a £100,000 unveiling ceremony.
Sorry, Councillor Wheeler, can we just correct you there? It is up to £100,000. It has not been confirmed at £100,000. It is underwriting as well. I fully appreciate the comments you've made in relation to vulnerable residents and those struggling at this present time. And it is my anticipation and expectation, as with the cabinets, that this will be wholly privately funded, that we shouldn't even need to use council funds for this.
Well, therefore, why are you allowing this to be considered? Because there's no rush. You said yourself that we're in the midst of a pandemic and we're not going to have this ceremony until afterwards. So take your time, raise the money privately, and then have your party, which will be all the sweeter for not costing the public a penny. And can I just say, what's great about this cabinet is that you are a collection of individual thinkers, and you've shown that you aren't afraid to change your minds. So as you review this decision, please think carefully about what you personally believe. Do you really believe that this cost should be underwritten in this way at this time when we are budget cutting, income dropping, or do you think that you should fundraise the event through private donations first? That is all I'm asking you. Thank you.
Super. Thank you for your observation. And we'll move on to Councillor Baxter, please.
Can you hear me? You can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Smashing, thank you. I know, Chair, that you're listening to our observations and questions in the same way that the call-in committee listened to the observations, in that you're allowing everybody to ask all the questions, but there appear to be no answers coming forward, and eventually we'll talk ourselves out without getting any proper response. However, nothing is more...
Sorry, Councillor Baxter, as per the Constitution, this isn't a question and answer session during this section of the agenda. This is for Cabinet members. The question and answer session should have been taken place at the call-in decision.
Yes, it should have done. It should have done, but sadly there are a lot of answers that weren't forthcoming. Anyway, nothing is more testament to the legacy of Margaret Thatcher than three recent actions of this Conservative council. Firstly, the grounds maintenance operations and leisure centres being taken back in-house to companies run by the council. Secondly, a plan, albeit a very, very slow-moving plan, to build much-needed council houses. And thirdly, the fluttering of an LGB rainbow flag on the council's flagpole. And my two questions are, firstly, the Festival of Inspirational Women of SKDC, will it include reference to Lady Charlotte Bertie of Uffington? And secondly, alongside Councillor Dilks' question, the appointment of the External Management Committee, who are going to manage £50,000 at least, and we're not sure how much of that money stays in their pocket, will that company be procured by a proper open, transparent procurement process, or will you be following the usual recent Conservative tradition of handing out the contract to friends and family?
I'm sorry, Councillor Baxter, I'd like you to retract that last statement you've just made.
Sorry.
I would like you to retract that last comment that you have just made, alleging fraud by cabinet members to friends and family. Would you retract that, please?
That's not what I said, Leader. I said.
I'm sorry, Councillor Baxter. You just said that Conservative members were giving contracts out to their family and friends. I'd like you to retract that, please.
Yes, members of the national government have given contracts to their family.
Councillor Baxter, will you retract that statement, please?
The statement certainly wasn't aimed at members of the
Councillor Baxter, as chairman, I'm asking you to retract that statement, please. Will you do so? Yes or no?
No.
Then your observations will now finish, and I'm going to mute you, Ashley, because that was incredibly rude, and I think that was poor behaviour by a member of this council. Okay, so we've had this report proposed, and Councillor Reid is very happy to second this. And if I can just say that I am very happy to attend the next meeting of the Culture and Visitor Overview Scrutiny Committee in order to discuss the organisation of the event and fundraising, and to hopefully answer some of the points that have been raised at today's meeting. Therefore, with that, Lucy, could we please move to the vote?
Mr. Chairman, Councillor Cook.
I'm sorry, Councillor Dilks. We are moving to the vote now. Thank you.
Yeah, but hang on, Councillor Cook. I appreciate that you want to move to the vote, but out of courtesy and
Councillor Dilks, this isn't a question and answer session. The calling happened, and there will be further debate and discussion at the Cultural Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting.
May I just say that my questions related, all of them, directly to the report that is before you today, not necessarily to the call-in where you said that I should have asked my questions. I asked the relevant questions there, and I ask relevant questions today.
We'll be responding to you, and we will get some responses sent to you via email as well. Ms. Fuel, if we could move to the vote, please.
Yes, certainly, Leader. Councillor Cook.
For.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
For.
Councillor Annie Mason.
For.
Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley.
For.
Councillor Robert Reid.
For.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
For.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
For.
That's carried, Leader.
Lovely, thank you very much. Therefore, moving on to items for information, and we move on to agenda item number 6, which is matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council or Overview and Scrutiny Committees. We don't have anything referred to us today. So therefore, moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the key and non-key decisions taken under delegated powers. Well, obviously, we've got one, which is the surrender and regrant of the lease at the Registrar's Office at the Community Point in Thorn. And that is just for noting. Therefore, we move on to agenda item number 8, which is representations and questions from non-cabinet members. And I'll give an opportunity for those who wish to speak now. Okay. And then moving on to agenda item number 9, which is the Cabinet Forward Plan from the 1st of March to the 28th of February 2022. Do we have any comments or clarifications from Cabinet members on this agenda item? No?
Yes, you will have. I can't get speak in the chat box quick enough.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you very much, Leader. My only concern in the funding that has been given, well, intimated to be given to us from the government, because we haven't yet got it completely finalised, is in this slimmed down version, which would meet the grant of the £5.5 million or whatever it is. What I want to know is will that jeopardise the submission by what we're actually going to omit to make it match the funding given? I'm sure Councillor Barry Dobson will be able to tell me. Yeah, but it was in very lateness that we got this report, and I haven't been able to ask.
Sorry, Councillor Reid, which report are you referring to? Future High Street Fund.
Item, yeah, the High Street.
We're not actually on that item yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, beg your pardon.
That's okay. So, well, moving forwards then from the Cabinet forward plan, because I've had no indications on that one. So we'll move forward on to the urgent items. So these are items which the leader is of the opinion should be considered at the meeting as a matter of special urgency pursuant to sections 100B, 4B of the Local Government Act 1972 by reason of special circumstances. So, if I can just get to my points. So the Future High Streets Fund is a £675 million grant fund which aims to provide local authorities the infrastructure investment to help renew and reshape town centres and high streets in a way that improves experience, drives growth and ensures future sustainability. In June 2020, a scheme requesting £8,100,000 of FHSA Future High Street funding support was presented to Cabinet. This was entitled Grantham the Living Town and a proposed number of schemes to revitalise Grantham Town Centre, improving gateways, public realm, visitor experiences and developing a more thriving economy through increasing the amount of residential accommodation in the town centre. This application was submitted to MHCLG and we were informed on Boxing Day that we had been successful in being awarded £5.55 million to deliver our programme. I think it's important to note that of 100 authorities that did submit, 72 were successful and only 15 of those actually received the full amount. So even for us to be shortlisted to get 5.5 million is still an incredible achievement. We have been given until the 26th of February to submit our final application, demonstrating how we will still achieve the aims and objectives of the Future High Street Fund programme with, albeit £2.5 million less funding than originally requested. The paper before us today obviously identifies those options for achieving this, and ultimately that recommendation that we take forward will only progress our ambitions for a greatly improved station approach, enhancing our marketplace and providing the opportunity for additional town centre living. The Future High Street programme will boost our local economy and provide a better quality of life and experience for all. And as we continue to deal with the impact of COVID-19, the timing really couldn't be better. So I'm delighted we've managed to secure this significant funding at the present time, and I hope we do get that funding. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create the next phase of Grantham's growth, making it an even better place for people to want to live, work and visit. And of course, the success of this funding bid is down to genuine partnership between Invest SK, the council, private landowners, infrastructure providers and local businesses. And not just that, but also being led by the Deputy Leader, Councillor Barry Dobson and his team. And there was also had support from Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew, Councillor Annie Mason, Councillor Linda Wotton, and all the staff at Invest SK in leading this forwards, as well as our own staff at the council. So with that, I'll hand over to the man who we've got to thank, and that's Councillor Dobson.
Well, thank you, Leader. Yes, and it is down to the whole team and also to the consultants that we introduced here to help us. The thing is, I read you the background. The paper that has been brought as an update to the Cabinet paper first presented and endorsed in June 2020. The original endorsement was for Invest SK to submit on behalf of SKDC an 8.01 Future High Street Fund application to MHCLG. The individual projects endorsed under the submission being Station Approach Public Realm Improvements and Mixed Use Development Stage 1, conversion of vacant upper floor units to residential, that was mainly in Westgate and Marketplace, public realm improvements to Marketplace, public realm and highway improvements to St Peter's Gardens. On the 26th of December, as the leader has just said, Boxing Day, it was like a Christmas present. We were informed that we had been awarded a funding envelope of 5.5 million. That is, it's awarded, it's been put by for us. We've still got to prove ourselves with as I go on through, you will see what we have now got to do. Of the 100 authorities that bid, as the leader has just said, only 72 were successful. The work of the consultants on this resubmission is key, as the bid still has to deliver the same identified claims and objectives and benefit cost ratio, but with £2.5 million less funding, it's a challenge. The SKD's funding allocation to the project does not change from the original £379,092 approved by Cabinet in June 2020 and full council in July 2020. So the recommendation is that the preferred option of the ISK board concurred with that of the consultants and are recommending the Cabinet the removal of St Peter's Gardens public realm and highway improvements element of the Grantham Future High Streets bid fund. Additionally, in order to make the necessary savings, we will need to very slightly reduce the number of residential conversions from 25 to 22. This option achieves the necessary savings without impacting on the original aims and objectives of the level of benefits cost ratio required. And it is the only one out of all of the 4 proposals after this award or promise of award of 5.5 million that really stacks up. Ultimately, it also retains the station approach, mixed-use development elements of the scheme, which has always been considered the primary focus of the future developments of the town. The preferred option also provides a natural flow for the scheme, going directly from the station down through Westgate and into Marketplace, as identified. Well, we've identified those on the plans, and it's really looking really good, and I'm so pleased. All I would like to ask that the Cabinet endorse this recommendation of option 1 that you see in the report. This progress can be confirmed to our contract manager then at MHCLG, and the consultants can complete the necessary submission on our behalf, well within the time frame. But we are now going to take it to the FEDCO on the 23rd of February, which leaves us just 3 days to pop it in an envelope and send it off to them. No, it will go off electronically, but it's very tight. So, but I have every faith that we are going to get this money as approved, and really look forward to seeing this begin to take place. So I recommend this and propose it to the Cabinet that we go ahead with this option 1. So we want you to approve the option 1 as the final proposed scheme for the Future High Street Fund in the principal offer of £5,558,818, which is exactly 69% of what we asked for originally. And also the Cabinet delegates authority to the Chief Executive Officer and the Interim Director of Finance to sign off the final report. Thank you, Leader.
Super, thank you very much, and I'm very happy to second that. And I'll go to Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Dobson, for presenting the report. I think I'm delighted that this is getting some traction and going places. I'm just disappointed that we weren't able to get the full funding the first time round. As is the case with many things, you know, if a scheme is popular, you end up not being able to fully fund it, I suppose, would be the government's view. There is at least the identification, though, through the possibilities of these funds, that the change of the high street is imperative to our growth and success moving forward. And so it's right that we've made these changes, to secure, or hopefully secure, this bid so that we can move forward. I'm absolutely convinced that we've got a really strong council and that we'll be able to look at how we can be innovative in the future with the St Peter's area. You don't have to do everything at once, I suppose. It's a small compromise to make, isn't it, really? And I'm fully supportive of the option 1 that you put forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Leader, you're muted.
Well, there's a first for everything in this meeting.
Yeah.
Obviously, it has been proposed and seconded. So, Lucy, I'm happy to move to the vote, please.
Certainly, Leader. Councillor Cllr Cook.
For.
Councillor Barry Dobson.
Very much for.
Councillor Annie Mason.
For.
Councillor Dr. Peter Moseley.
For.
Councillor Robert Reid.
For.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
For.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew.
Definitely for.
That's carried, Leader.
Super, thank you very much. Well, there are no exempt items on today's agenda, So that just leaves me for the closing remarks of today's meeting. And I think if I can just say, because I know it has been a bit heated at certain points of this meeting, let's be brutally honest, we were all elected as councillors to improve our own local areas and to support the residents that we've been elected to serve. I've never liked personal attacks or vexatious, unfounded allegations being made against any member. So I was disappointed that an opposition councillor decided to change the tone of our meeting today, because we have made some really positive decisions. I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you all at our future meeting. So thank you very much, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.